Chapter 1.2 Major Figures in Psychology's History. German physiologist Wilhelm Wundt published his landmark text, Principles of Physiological Psychology, in 1874. In 1879, he opened the first psychology research laboratory at the University of Leipzig. Wundt defined psychology as the study of consciousness and emphasized the use of experimental methods to study and measure consciousness. Edward B. Titchener formally established structuralism, the first major school of thought in psychology. It held that complex conscious experiences could be broken down into elemental structures or components of sensations and feelings. To identify these structures of conscious thought, Titchener trained subjects in a procedure called introspection. William James was an American physiologist and psychologist whose dynamic views had an enormous impact on the development of psychology in the United States. His ideas became the basis for a new school of psychology called Functionalism. Functionalism stressed the importance of how behavior functions to allow people and animals to adapt to their environments. Functionalists explained how psychology could be applied to areas such as education, child rearing, and the work environment. An outstanding teacher, James wrote Principles of Psychology, published in 1890 in 2 volumes. In 1878, Stanley Hall received the first PhD in psychology awarded in the United States. He established the first psychology research laboratory in the U.S. at Johns Hopkins University in 1883. He began publishing the American Journal of Psychology. In 1892, Hall founded and was elected the first president of the American Psychological Association. Mary Whiton Calkins was an American psychologist who conducted research on memory, personality, and dreams. She established a psychological laboratory at Wellesley College in 1891, wrote a well-received textbook titled Introduction to Psychology, and was the first woman to be elected president of the American Psychological Association. Margaret Floy Washburn was the first American woman to officially earn a PhD in psychology. In 1908, she published an influential text titled The Animal Mind. In 1921, she became the second woman elected president of the American Psychological Association. Sigmund Freud was an Austrian physician and the founder of Psychoanalysis, which emphasized human behavior as motivated by unconscious conflicts, which are almost always sexual or aggressive in nature, and past experiences, especially childhood experiences, is critical to the formation of adult personality and behavior. Freud's psychoanalytic theory of personality also provided the basis for a distinct form of psychotherapy. In the early 1900s, the school of psychology called behaviorism emerged as a dominating force. It emphasized the study of overt behavior, observable behaviors that could be objectively measured and verified. Ivan Pavlov was the Russian physiologist whose pioneering research on learning contributed to the development of behaviorism. He discovered a basic learning process that involves the association of stimuli. John B. Watson was an American psychologist who championed behaviorism, emphasizing the study of observable behavior and rejecting the study of mental processes. The goal of behaviorists was to discover the fundamental principles of learning. B.F. Skinner was an American psychologist and, like Watson, a strong proponent of behaviorism. Between Watson and Skinner, behaviorism dominated American psychology for almost half a century. In the 1950s, a new school of thought called Humanistic Psychology emerged. It was so distinctly different from both psychoanalysis and behaviorism that it's sometimes referred to as the third force in American psychology. Carl Rogers was the American psychologist who founded the School of Humanistic Psychology, which emphasized conscious experiences, including each person's unique potential for psychological growth and self-determination, and self-determination, free will, and the importance of choice in human behavior. Abraham Maslow was the American humanistic psychologist who developed a theory of motivation that emphasized psychological growth.